Teams have been busy filling needs in free agency, but not every hole has been filled. We're examining the top remaining needs for every AFC team today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who make Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every single day, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
I don't know whether to wish you a happy you and I got the podcast started today, today.
Man. Yeah.
Or happy Kyle gets a new monitor day today.
I mean, we could celebrate both. Congrats on the new monitor. And if people only knew the audio issues that I've had.
We tried to start.
Brother. Yeah.
And then we went to record and the intro video didn't play. So then we had to restart all over again. So this is, I think, we're Jawan Taylor false starts into the show today.
Wow. And they're calling them. They're calling the false starts too. You know, sometimes.
That's right. Every single one.
Yeah.
So what a great segue into the AFC West.
Yeah.
Which is our objective here today. I didn't do that on purpose, but it worked out pretty well. I was going to do Larry Tunsil. Free agency first week is in the books. You know, the league calendar year opened 1 week ago, last week. And we are looking into the biggest remaining need for all 16 teams in the American Football Conference. It's our objective. We're going to start with the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. 2-time Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs.
3 of the last 5, Kyle Crabbs.
Living's good. But I think when you look at this roster, I did have 2 spots that I thought were worth consideration.
Same.
And it was probably the same ones, which puts Kansas City in a good spot when you consider where the strengths of this draft class lie. Is it wide receiver and offensive tackle?
I had offensive tackle.
You didn't have wide receiver as one of the top 2 needs on the Chiefs?
I think it's pressing to an extent. I mean, I did sign Hollywood Brown. I know. Go ahead, get your whatever you have to say about that. Rashee Rice. I mean, Sky Moore. They got Travis Kelce. I think they need wide receiver.
Tony, huh?
What's that?
No love for Kadarius Toney, huh?
None at all. Neither do Chiefs fan. I feel confident.
You have plenty of love for Kadarius Toney.
I do.
Off sides.
I greatly appreciate Kadarius.
Why need the division?
Yeah. Part of that. Part of the winning the division. Okay, so wide receiver, I acknowledge. We both agree on offensive tackle, where at left tackle, Wanya Morris, the presumed starter at left tackle, right? And I don't know if that's good enough. He had some flashy moments last year. But also, I think the edge is something worth talking about. Defensive end, where Mike Dana has not been brought back yet. They have Charles Omenihu coming off of an ACL tear in late in the season. Mm-hmm. So that puts next season very much in doubt. You know, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, their first-round pick last year, didn't really tell us anything about himself as a rookie. So, well, we need to see it. So I have edge up there as well.
And I know they obviously committed a large contract to Jawan Taylor, but Jawan Taylor and Wanya Morris would not be stopping me if a really good offensive tackle was on board at 1.
No question. So to me, it's offensive tackle. If we're going to the biggest remaining need, it's offensive tackle, but I think there's something to talk about at edge at wide and wide receiver.
Yeah. I would say that's probably a fair assessment, which when living's good, that's a great place to be if you're the Kansas City Chiefs. The Las Vegas Raiders, our next team to focus on. The biggest need on this roster, and they spent big with Christian Wilkins. They bring back John Jenkins and Adam Butler from last year's team. I had 2 spots that stood out, but one spot from positional value took the highest priority for me.
I have 2 as well. Why don't you go first, and then I'll choose the other one.
Do the you ever go to sniff and mute yourself and then unmute yourself before you sniff?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
ever
yeah.
happened to you?
Plenty of times, yeah.
It's just another false start for us and Juwan Taylor here on the show. Do they both sound the same? The positions both sound the same?
No?
Quarterback and cornerback?
Oh, yeah.
Is that your 2?
Good call. Yeah, I had cornerbacks up there. I have quarterback.
Yep.
Just that right side of the offensive line.
But we got, was it Fluker's penciled in at right guard right now?
For brother, like, come on, that's unserious. We got to get something going on there. But I mean, our starter opposite of Jack Jones is Brandon Faison. Like, we need something there. I know that some Raiders fans are high on Ja'Cory Bennett.
Yep.
All right. We'll
and they
see.
do have Nate Hobbs in the slot, so they
slot.
have some players there. But I think another outside corner.
Yeah.
Well, especially when you consider Spillane being the player that he was and Kuhn showing the flashes that he did. Well, that defense really stabilized and played well down the stretch. I think another corner would take it to another stratosphere. Now, I just have quarterback.
Yeah.
Aiden O'Connell's not preventing you from investing anything, and neither is Gardner Minshew on a 2-year deal worth, I think, what was it, 25?
I thought 25 was the number in my head. It still feels like a high number, but I think that's the real one.
All right. Well, I'll float around and produce this thing and just double check if you want to get us started on the Denver Broncos as our next team.
Oh, the easiest conversation we're going to have. Quarterback.
2 years, $25 million for Gardner Minshew. Yes. And the challenge for Denver is the dead money that's invested in the quarterback room. So their quarterback room still is very expensive for a player that's not on the roster. And then at 12, and you're limited in your draft capital, they're just in a really unenviable spot to try to fill that. So I think their strategy, somebody falls, great. But if I'm a Broncos fan, I'm tempering my expectations that need is going to get filled in the next, 6 weeks, I guess. Draft is 5 weeks.
Something like that.
Real close.
Yeah.
The Chargers.
Kyle, the Chargers were the team that I had the most to say about remaining team needs as I surveyed. Yeah, I went through the AFC, obviously, in preparation for this podcast, and I came away thinking that the Chargers had a lot of work to do on this roster because you could say wide receiver, very clear, right? They don't have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Quentin Johnson, a lot to prove there. I think they needed a lot with their interior defensive line. I think they need a lot at off-ball linebacker, and I think they need a lot at cornerback. Like, I think they have legitimate holes on this roster. Whatever one you want to say is the most important or the biggest remaining one, sure, I'd agree with you, but I think there's 4 big ones.
All right, so you're paying Justin Herbert $52.5 million per season on average.
Yep.
That, de facto, you need bodies at wide receiver, but if you have a quarterback that you feel that stratosphere for, I'm not going to put wide receivers the top remaining team because there's a certain expectation with a quarterback of that caliber. I think it's the defensive front for me. I mean, you still have Asante Samuel and Alohi Gilman and Derwin James and JT Woods was a 3rd-round pick. Like, you have some bodies in the secondary. Corner's not looking great, aside of Samuel. But we got Poona Ford and Chris Hinton and Tito Ogbanya and Morgan Fox and Scott Matlock up front.
Yeah, we got to get better.
That you probably need 4 53-man roster spots filled by guys in a perfect world that you don't currently have. That's a lot of work to do.
Not to mention a center. You need a center, right? Like,
oh, by the way, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
They did bring in Bradley Bozeman.
Oh, that's true. That just happened. So my apologies for the 10 seconds there that I forgot about Bradley Bozeman. Point being, the Chargers got some work to do. And they don't have a lot of resources to do it. So trading out of 5 might be.
Do we want to give this team any love for the potential 12 personnel grouping of Hayden Hurst and Will Dissly, though? Did you see the Chargers with Harbaugh being a huge 12 personnel team?
I'm sure they will. And to have a blocker like Dissly in the fray is going to be helpful.
Yeah.
And they're going to play football a little different. A little different over there in LA for the Chargers. All right, we got the AFC South and the AFC North coming up here in just a moment, so be sure to stick with us. Passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
I like to say bring home the dub, not the win. Bring home the dub.
Is that what you say when you do the ad reads?
Yeah, when I do the ad reads.
Wow. Special.
I've been told I need to start picking up the slack with that here on this program. So I just wanted to give you my input on how I would have phrased that one part of the read.
Appreciate the coaching.
Yeah,
really.
No, I got you.
Yeah.
The Houston Texans.
Yeah.
Reigning AFC South division champions. Going to be a very popular deep playoff run pick for a lot of analysts here in about 6 months. You can tell.
Probably so, right? Everybody wants the hot new thing, right?
That's right. You know, young team, made a lot of additions on the defensive side of the ball between Danico Autry and Daniil Hunter and Azeez Al-Shaair, and they brought in Jeff Okudah, who they maybe this coaching staff will get the best out of. They trade for Joe Mixon. You just know this team's going to perpetually get picked to win 13 games and be like an AFC conference championship game appearance for a lot of folks.
Nobody cares about your fantasy team, but as a dynasty owner of Joe Mixon, I am thrilled with getting to Houston and the contract extension that they signed him to.
Right.
Real football wise, not sure how much I like that.
You look at this team, however.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
It's corner for me. Yeah, it's corner.
It was either corner or wide receiver for me.
I think they have a lot of bodies at receiver. I think, Tank Dell coming back, Noah Brown's back. They have Robert Woods, not to mention Nico Collins, John Mechie. To me, it's right now we're penciling in Jeff Okudah opposite of Derek Stingley. Stingley had an amazing second season. Still want to see him stay healthy. But Okudah, I don't think it's going to happen, man. This is his third team. And I thought they enjoyed great contributions from Steven Nelson last year. I'm thinking a lot about a first-round corner for Houston in the coming draft.
And just to be different, I'll go wide receiver just because Tank Dell obviously was electric. Nico Collins was a revelation. Noah Brown's, I think, a little bit more of a skill-specific type of player.
Fits what they do, though. It's like big body down the field.
He absolutely does.
Yeah.
But if you really want to be optimizing how you space the field, I think having another player, particularly that stereotypical Z speed down the field type player, I think would really complete what they have. I think if you want to go off the integrity of what is the biggest need that they have, I think corner's probably a fair call out, but I'll just be different and go wide receiver so we get as much commentary as we can. The second place team in the AFC South was the Indianapolis Colts, right?
You always do this, man. And I think you get yourself in trouble. I don't remember. It was either the Jaguars or the Colts.
We're going to go with the Colts because they played in the division championship game on Saturday night when they played the Texans, right?
Yeah.
The biggest remaining need for the Colts is probably how about some players that weren't on the roster last year?
Are they Raekwon Davis and Joe Flacco, Kyle Crabbs?
Yeah, those are the big investments from outside the pool, right? But they have been very assertive in getting their own guys back under contract, and from a team building facet, that's if you really like the guys you have, and Chris Ballard's been given the leash to reset the deck again. You have the opportunity to kind of get stuff aligned. This is also for me between wide receiver and corner.
Yeah, I lean corner. They had to like overcome a lot at corner last year, Kyle. They've done nothing. They brought back Kenny Moore. There's no personnel different right now at corner.
but they have a lot of youth.
Yeah.
So I guess I view the Colts corner room like you viewed the Houston wide receiver room, where they have a lot of youth and bodies. I'm ready to move off Alec Pierce. I've been ready to move off Alec Pierce since the 2022 draft. But if you're going to put Anthony Richardson in the best position to be successful, let's go out and get some guys, some dudes for him.
Kyle Crabbs, hater of Alec Pierce. Put it down.
No.
He's your new you got your enemies out there. Jermaine Pratt, Cameron Curl, Mike and Alec Pierce firmly on the list of
why you got to pick out the guys that were exceeding my expectations.
Well, there's other ones as well, but those are
but that's what makes it nefarious that you picked out the ones that are like, oh, these guys actually are pretty good. Kyle's an idiot. Maybe
I have plenty of those.
Joe bunch of numbers will come after me after he went after Solak the other day.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, that guy's a clown. Are we done with the Colts? We're good.
Yeah.
You said receiver. I said corner. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Jaguars. Guess what I have down for them? Corner. We need somebody opposite Tyson Campbell, who's a stud, but we need a running mate here. Darius Williams back to the Rams. We need something.
Really robust free agent spending for them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Gabe Davis and Mitch Morrison. I mean, Devin Duvernay is a special teams guy, and Eric Armstead, Travis Gibson, even as a complimentary edge rusher to the guys that they have. Darnell Savage at safety. I think they've done a really nice job addressing their needs in free agency. How well those players fit and assimilate, and the value of them is a different conversation. But I think they've really put themselves in a position where they're one of the teams that I think could really just let the board dictate to them how they want to go if they're going to choose to do that. But I would agree with you. Corner's the biggest need on the roster, which leaves the Tennessee Titans. Keep it as short as we can, so I don't want to disappoint anybody.
Listen, I had a Titans fan reach out to me yesterday and said, Joe, we're not mad at you for talking about how bad our offensive tackles are. We know they're not good. So seems like that's a safe place for us to go, right?
Just go tackle.
Offensive tackle.
An acknowledgement. Yeah. Offensive tackle.
Yeah. All right.
I think if you were to look elsewhere.
Oh.
I do think edge rush beyond Harold Landry. Arden Key's become a nice complementary player.
Yeah.
But I do think there's some more meat on the bone there. And then obviously corner, bringing in Chidobe Awuzie. Caleb Farley is this like the year the leap happens.
If he stays healthy.
If he stays healthy, right. But it's like he's been through some unfortunate circumstances since he's come into the league. So that would be another spot I would look at. But I generally agree, especially with the second-year quarterback, that tackle is the big spot.
Totally agree.
The North.
The
Baltimore Ravens, our first team up.
I think you can make a case for a couple of positions, but I do want to go to the edge here. Jadeveon Clowney, number 1 on that team last year in pressures. Number 4 was Kyle Van Noy. Neither are back. As of right now, I think penciled in, you're counting on a lot from David Ajabo, who's appealing, but we haven't seen it yet from him. So I think you could talk interior offensive line and guard in particular, but I think the bigger need is at the edge.
Isn't it kind of disgusting though, how like they've lost like 3 starting guards in the last 2 years, and they're still going to roll out like Ben Cleveland and Andrew Voorhees, who we liked quite a bit, but suffered like a knee injury and then still threw up like 40 on the bench press at the combine.
They got that guard they drafted out of Oregon last year, whose name I'm not even going to try.
Correct, which is a smart call. Athletic type. Yeah. So, and they had the depth to be able to move Patrick McCarry to tackle, presumably with trading Morgan Moses.
It had to be the root of why that happened. I think they wanted to get him on the field. So, but their guards Zeitler and Simpson on other teams.
Man, and you know what? If I were a lot of teams, Zeitler for $6 million probably would have been something I'd have considered.
Yeah, I agree.
But he's in Detroit, and Detroit between Zeitler and DJ Reader, a fun infusion of butt kickers up front. But that is for another day. Joe, let's sneak one more in.
Okay.
Before the break. The next highest team was the Cleveland Browns. Second place. I'm sitting here doing the math.
Yeah.
We had 3 in the playoffs. Which one was the highest seed? Cleveland.
Yeah. Cleveland's got a good looking roster. That's one of the things that I took away from looking at it this morning. I think where I get a little nervous is linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Looks like a great young player. And then they brought in a couple of vets in Jordan Hicks and Devin Bush. I think they need to get a Mike. I think that'd be helpful if they can get their like quarterback of that defense in the middle there, green dot player. But I really think the roster looks pretty strong to me.
Linebacker. It's a spot, which anytime linebacker is your biggest need, you're living pretty good.
Yeah.
And the Browns right now, and look, they're spending cash at a crazy rate. Their 3-year cash burn is through the roof. They've been very aggressive, and this year the most yet. And that was before they gave Jerry Jeudy the contract extension that they did. So they are willing to spend, and they're going to try to compete in this window. And I think that the fans in Cleveland deserve that after all the hardship of 20-something years. We'll see if it comes together for him, but you can't blame ownership for not spending at the very least at this stage for the Browns.
Yeah, Deshaun comes into form. They're going to be a problem in the AFC.
Yeah.
And of course, Nick Chubb coming back from injury as well. Excited to see what that looks like. All right, we're going to talk Steelers and Bengals and the AFC East here in just a moment. So be sure to stick with us. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tournament. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets.
Here we go, Steelers. Here we go.
Nicely done.
We're talking Pittsburgh Steelers and their biggest remaining team need.
There's 3 of them to me.
We got Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin as 2 of our 3 wide receivers right now.
Bit of a problem.
That looms large. Nate Herbig at center.
Yeah, a bit of a problem.
With really no viable depth players on the interior that you would be like, oh, maybe this guy could compete and take the job. That looms large. And then what? Corner?
Wait, who was that Kansas State center that they had for like 100 years that they could always just rely on to step in? I'm going to put you in a bad spot right now and hope that you can get me out of a spot that I put us both in. Come on, you know who this guy is. Played at Kansas State.
Man, I have no idea.
He was like their guy. Like that would be the guy they need on the depth chart. Steelers fans are yelling at us right now. Whoever this guy
is. Is corner your other spot?
Yes.
Obviously, the trade for Dante Jackson helps quite a bit.
Right. But
I still think behind Porter and Jackson, you got Darius Rush, Josiah Scott, Luke Barku. Like, not a lot of proven talent there behind your top guys. I think the most pressing, particularly when you consider the style of play for both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, who like to win outside of structure and extend plays. We get a bank on Calvin Austin on the scramble drill or Van Jefferson to get separation on extended plays. I think you need another guy big time for a wide receiver for the Steelers. That's my biggest need for them.
Yeah, I'd agree. And then talk about center, and then we talk about corner.
Which takes us to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I think this roster's coming in together pretty well for the Bengals.
Is it?
I think so. Yeah.
Are they going to keep T. Higgins this year?
Well, so allow me to get to my answer. I think that's where I'm at with Cincy. They need to solidify their weaponry behind Jamar Chase, because what is the status of T. Higgins? Are we good at tight end with like Mike Gesicki as the starter there with Drew Sample and Tanner Hudson as the depth? Like, do you like that? Are you Zach Moss as like a legitimate opportunity to be the lead guy, along with, of course, they drafted Chase Brown? Like, are we sure about these weapons beyond Jamar Chase to the level that it needs to be for this offense to be what it wants to be? Also, the slot, right? With Tyler Boyd's not back, we got like Trenton Irwin and Charlie Jones.
The favorite there,
right?
Yusevich,
we got to see it though, right?
Flashes last year. And I don't know, like, I'm down on Trent Brown, and I know he was like not interested in being there last year. Like, I don't feel good about that being your answer at right tackle. They totally flushed the tight end system. I think Mike Gesicki has some potential, but separation's not really his thing. Zach Moss and Chase Brown. Like, I think the whole skill group, you need like another guy to me. So to answer your question, no. I would still be looking and hunting for like an impact skill player to make the most of Joe Burrow and his style of play. Now, I like what they did on defense, bringing in Geno Stone, bringing back Von Bell, Sheldon Rankins. Like, I like the defensive depth chart a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm just looking at offensively around Joe, the guys you had versus the guys you have. I don't really like some of your answers yet. So I want to see what they're able to facilitate with their draft picks.
Yeah, I think they got to figure out those weapons a little bit. Trent Brown's the X factor at right tackle. When he's on, but
he's also getting a little long in the tooth, man, too. I know there's all these memes about 6'8", 360-pound offensive tackles, but he's not a spring chicken anymore.
Right.
AFC East.
Heard about it.
The floor is yours, the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, the Bills. It's a challenge between what I think the top priority is and what the biggest need is. The biggest need is that they need a starting safety to go with Taylor Rapp. But boy, oh boy, is the depth at defensive tackle behind Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones literally nothing.
Who is Eli
Ankou? That's a great practice squad player. He's been on the practice squad for about 7 years now. Yeah, that's it. Literally, right? That's probably the only player that's even on the Ourlads depth chart. So they got to get serious about some defensive tackle depth, but they legitimately need a starting safety, Oppo, Taylor Rapp.
Yeah, and Taylor's what would you classify him after this past year, an adequate level starter?
Yeah, maybe.
So quality depth?
I'm optimistic that, because I liked him a lot coming from the Rams. I didn't like him a lot last year for the Bills. But I think it says something to me that they spent a year with him, and Sean McDermott's history with safeties is just off the charts. And like, yeah, we really want to bring you back to be a starter. Like, I have a level of optimism there, but he's got to be better than he was last year for the Bills for him to be a viable starter.
And that's why safety is the top need spot, just because, at least you have Ed Oliver up front at defensive tackle. That Bills defense for so long has had super high caliber play. And I know it's tailed off as Hyde and Boyer got a little older, but knowing what that defense can look like when you have like athleticism and instincts in the secondary at safety, kind of one of the straws that serves the drink for them. So I think that's a big need.
Bring me Justin Simmons, Kyle Crabbs. Bring me Julian Blackmon.
Quandre Diggs. You should want Quandre.
Bring me Quandre Diggs. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what's optimistic is like there's options out there. Mike Edwards, like there's guys, right?
Yep.
You need them.
For the Dolphins, I think their two biggest need spots they have a lot of bodies for competition, but I don't think they have the dude that you feel like is capable of replacing the two $100 million contracts that walked out the door this offseason, and Christian Wilkins and Robert Hunt. If you'd have asked me 3 days ago, I might have said guard, because that was before they added Isaiah Wynn and Jack Driscoll.
Right.
But the fact that they added those guys to that competition, I still think they need one starting guard. So Wynn, Driscoll, Eichenberg, Robert Jones can be competing for one spot on the offensive line. And you'd feel like you got adequate competition. Somebody's going to level up their game. But at defensive tackle, Benito Jones, Neville Gallimore, Davion Nixon, Deshaun Hand, Jonathan Harris.
At least you have names, Kyle Crabbs.
We have names.
There's human beings that exist.
There are human beings that are capable of filling that void. But the biggest drop-off in talent belongs at defensive tackle. And when you consider that Christian Wilkins played 90% of the snaps, he was like a 900 snap taker annually for Miami. That is the spot for me that needs most attention for Miami right now.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on interior defensive line. There's a lot of snaps to fill with Christian Wilkins, and maybe Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones are going to play 100% of the snaps and never get injured. Yeah, we'll be fine. Be just totally fine. No problem at all.
You joke about that, but the Dolphins kind of took that plan with Sealer and Wilkins last year. They had like four defensive tackles on. One of them was Raekwon Davis as a nose tackle. Like, I really don't like what we got going rotation-wise here, but those dudes played. So The Jets. Sorry, I had a push notification for Rappaport, and I just wanted to make sure we weren't getting any wee-woo news.
The Jets, this is their biggest remaining need is good injury luck.
Right?
But outside of that, I think it's they need a nose tackle. They signed Javon Kinlaw to play next to Quinnen Williams. They signed Lecky Fotu, but I still think they need some type of like legitimate A-gap presence to be that one to kind of free up what they want to be in terms of an up the field defense. So they need injury luck, but I think on top of that, if there's like an actual thing, I think they need a nose tackle. And I think they had a good idea with Al Woods last year. He got injured, if I'm not mistaken. I think a player like that would be helpful for this defense.
Yeah. Call me crazy, but I still want insurance at skill players. Lazard was a bomb for them. Xavier Gibson looking like a nice find for them, but not really, or at least last year was not a volume player in any capacity. Mike Williams, the injury concerns there are well documented. Whether it ends up being Aaron Rodgers, if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt again and it's Tyrod Taylor, let's have the explosiveness in the offense. And while I think they've done a nice job of initially addressing the need, I think there's more work there. And look, that defense can go to a certain degree. You need more margin for error on offense. And I think between Tyron Smith, John Simpson, and Morgan Moses, you've infused some of that on the line. I think you need more in the skill group.
Patriots quarterback, get out of here.
Patriots quarterback, let's get out of here. Yeah. Stick and pick, or would you realistically stick and pick, or would you trade when you look at the full roster for New England?
Okay, so I think my decision to want to trade is more rooted in I'm not in love with the quarterbacks. I recognize that there's 4 guys that I think give you a legitimate chance to be a guy, right? Like I get that. But am I personally in love with them? Not without having the chance to meet them. I'm not. Especially like the third one, I would personally be very interested in trading out. But I think in reality, can they really not do it? I think you could probably take a chance to like really build up the infrastructure, which some other teams have. Like build up that offensive infrastructure and then go get your quarterback. But if they love a quarterback, you have to pick them at 3. You have to. Yep. If you don't, then move out.
That is the nuanced, appropriate answer. Well done.
Thank you.
And we hope we provided a good, nuanced answer for all of your teams, even though for a few it was you need a quarterback, and we'll move on. So that's going to do it for us here on Locked On NFL Scouting. I'm Kyle Crabbs. He is Joe Marino. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Make it a great rest of your day. We'll be back to talk to you all again tomorrow.